So hi friends, so we'll start the session part. So this is the second session, second webinar which we are conducting. We have already conducted one webinar last week in two slots. So in that webinar, we have actually discussed about the basic GD-PI group discussion, VAT and PI preparation. So we have talked about each aspect like group discussion, the process, do's and don'ts in that, and how to prepare for a group discussion. Similarly, we have talked about the VAT and what is the process you actually have in the VAT, and then some structures which would help you to actually structure your essay, and then do's and don'ts in the VAT and how to prepare for that. And then we have moved and talked about the personal interview, the process, and what exactly do they look for in an interview. And then we have talked about the do's and don'ts, and then some sample questions. So this was the basic structure of the last session. So where are the people who are attending this for the first time and haven't attended the last session, it's there in our website. It's uploaded. So you get recorded version of that. So you can look into that, and if you have any issues, you can actually mail to us, which I'll give you. You can even mail it in the website itself, a comment, put it as a comment at the bottom of it, and we'll respond to any of your concerns. It could be specific, which you can mail, or even if it's generic, you can actually put it in the website itself. It's up to you. So we'll start and move ahead. So first, I'll say look into the agenda part. What exactly are we gonna do today in this session? So first, I'll briefly talk about the PI process, which I've done in the last session. So it's all like I would just touch upon that at 2-3 minutes so that I will get some grasp of that. So for people who haven't attended the last one, then we'll go about the PI questions itself. What kind of questions are we going to be facing in a personal interview? But the questions can be from a different categories. So I've tried to categorize the questions from into different categories so that you people would actually have some brief idea, like what kind of questions are we going to ask, should we expect, and then what exactly is the way we should go ahead and prepare for this. So if you can actually categorize into these categories, maybe then you can actually structure your preparation and channelize all your thoughts and energy in the right track so that you can actually get the things well prepared for this standard set of questions which we'll discuss. So this could be like questions about you, or maybe these could be about the questions about things related to you, like a place you are from and hobbies, etc., and then related to your career, and then work experience and so on. So which we'll see slowly. So briefly talking about the PA process, it's an interview taken by a panel of 2 to 4. It could be profs or alumni. So it has the highest weightage. Generally, it goes from 10 minutes to 1 hour or something. So you never predict like how long an interview is gonna be. So be prepared for 1 hour as well as 10 minutes. But it generally happens for say 15 to 25 minutes. So I would suggest you people to be prepared, mentally prepared for this 1 hour of session, so that you would be able to handle anything less than that. Then the questions can be asked related to your personal life, career related, academics, and simply speaking, this like anything under the sun. So they can ask you anything under the sun, which I think you would be able to figure it out once we go ahead and talk. Then the questions which they ask, few people think that might depend on the B school for which I'm going. It's partially correct. So partly correct, I should say. Like maybe you can expect some things on the basis of the B school where you're going. For example, IIM Calcutta has this idea of actually asking a good amount of quant, I mean mathematics related questions, which because they're more into Fin, like they're known as the Fin campus of the country, so they have this tendency to do that. But it doesn't mean that all the people attending the IIM Calcutta interview are going to be facing that, and people who are sitting for the other interviews might not. So you never can predict it. As I'm saying, it's anything under the sun. So I would just like to, before going ahead, so let me say about this. So when I'm discussing these topics, if you have any concerns which you think is relevant to what I'm talking at that particular moment, you can just post it in the chat. So I'll look into that, and if I feel maybe this is the right time to pick it up and ask, I'll go ahead and talk about that. If I feel that maybe this is something which I can answer it, maybe then maybe it's too specific or maybe it's not related to what I'm discussing, then I'll put it for the end. So understand that, and it means that you can post it that in the end again. So you have a chart on the left side of your screen, so where you can actually use that. So you can post those questions in the end, where we'll have a Q&A round session for say 10-15 minutes. So maybe you can ask your questions. So moving ahead, Yeah, what do they look at? Briefly talking about that, they would look like they would like to know more and more about you and see if you can actually fit into their B school. What values can you add to the batch and the B school? So your analytical skills, your ability to cope up in stressful conditions. These are very important thing which they will definitely look into when the interview is happening. So because in a B school you need to actually handle the stress. In after the B school, when you get into the industry, you need to handle even more stress. So that's where they're actually looking whether you particular person can actually handle it once you're going into these life. So and then they'll look into your ability to learn from the past. uh, Say, and then we'll talk about the arrogance and carelessness are not something which you should carry it into your interview room. It should be more like you should be looking like an approachable, calm, and cool person, which would be highly appreciated by the panel. So yeah, moving ahead to the questions. The first category I would say about the questions about you. It's completely related to about you. So a standard question: tell me about yourself in 2 minutes or maybe 1 minute. They'll say. So the basic idea is, so this is kind of a tricky thing because this can actually make or break the interviews. The reason why I'm saying is there's a good chance, not in all the interviews, but there's a good chance that an interviewer will start with this question. So yeah, can you please tell me about yourself? So that's where you should actually try to pick up things in your life which actually would leave an open thread for him to pick it up and then ask questions related to that in the later questions. So what I'm trying to say is when he asks to tell about yourself, maybe you should talk about briefly like what your name and then your place, then your graduation, undergraduation, and the specialization, what you've done, and then one line about your work ex. Maybe one two lines if you have anything to talk about your achievements in your work experience or something like that. You don't explain too much of your achievements or too much of what you've done in your work, because if you explain that then they will not ask about that. So you have to just leave an open thread. Let's say I've worked in this XYZ profile in ABC company. I was awarded the performer of the quarter award for the 2 months or 2 quarters or something. So you don't explain like what exactly did you do over there which made you to get this quarter performer of the quarter award and stuff. So that's where this is an open end where they might pick and ask, and then you can go on and talk for another 2 3 minutes about that, which can actually leave a good impression. At the same time, cut their time from like and stop them asking the other questions which you might not be able to answer, and then briefly talk about your strengths and weaknesses, maybe one two lines about that, and then your hobbies, one line about that, and then maybe last one two lines which you can talk about your long term goals or something goals, the future perspective of you, what exactly are you looking towards your future. So these all should be in one two lines, and it should be properly structured. You have to well prepare this answer. You have to pick the points from your life which you think would be a bit interesting for the interviewer and also relevant to your context, because you're sitting in a B school interview. So they might pick those interesting points and ask, and as you are ready to actually take this and like you want them to ask these questions, you should be preparing for these in depth and you should be able to go ahead and steer the interview in the way you want. That is one key thing you have to note. Then they might even ask, tell me about yourself in two lines, which is pretty common if they are very much irritated. I mean, they are taking the interview, they will be taking the interviews right from the morning to the evening with some breaks, but they generally might get tired if you are last one in the line. I mean, the group of the people they are interviewing. Maybe they might just ask you to explain yourself in two lines. So be prepared for that. These two lines, which should be like you have to pick the key things. Somehow, like maybe you can talk about your strength or something like that, which you think will define you. Maybe you can talk about your achievement or something. So one line should be about your like I'm this, like they did this graduation and worked here, and then I am like I'm an optimistic guy. I have persistence, etc., which have made me to be successful, or maybe done good things in life. Something like these two three lines, which you have to think deep and get properly aligned so that the interview can go ahead on this lines if it is possible. Then there is one third thing like tell me about yourself, which is not written in the form. This is another standard question. I would say not everyone will get it, but there's a good chance that they'll ask you, because for every B school you fill a form, then you go with that form. So maybe you've already submitted or you'll carry it into the room. So the panel might be looking at the form, so they want to know something which is not written in the form. So you have to understand like what exactly have I written in the form. You have to make note of those things and pick the things which are not written in the form. Maybe that form didn't ask about your strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you can pick about the strengths and talk that. Maybe that form didn't ask you to talk about your achievements. Maybe you can pick that and ask. But if those things are already written in the form and you're just having a standard answer for all the B school interviews, then you might be in a trouble. But like the panelist might point you out like, okay, it's already written. So what exactly are you giving me? Like it's already there. So please do not make sure that these kind of things do not happen. And then they might ask you about your biggest achievements and failures in life. So you have to dive deep into your life right from your childhood. Like if I ask me, I would say like you have to play the video of your life. You have to go through, close your eyes and sit for 1 hour or something, and like go through your life. What exactly have you done right from your childhood? Whatever you can remember. Maybe the list of certificates you have can help you to get some ideas about the achievements or something. Do not think that what I've done in the school might not be helpful or something. But yeah, the good thing is to talk about the achievements which are in the recent times. But if you have really a great one, maybe in school something like you've got some bravery award, that's a very rare thing. But maybe you never know, something like that. If you have very specifically you have won some national level something or international, you've gone and represented somewhere. If you think that's a great thing at a very early age, I think you should definitely put it. Discuss about that. The thing I would say is pick at least two achievements and two failures in your life, because sometimes what happens is you talk about one achievement and he might say, okay, that's fine, that's related to something, but can you talk about achievement related to your work, or maybe about your something like that. They might ask you to talk about one more achievement or maybe one more failure if they are not happy, or if they are not do not feel comfortable with that, satisfied with that rather I should say. So be prepared for two achievements and failures to be on the safe side. Then they might ask you like, what did you learn from your failure? So be make sure that when they ask you about failures in life, you also talk briefly in the end about what exactly have you learned from that. That shows that you have the ability to learn from your failures and past. You take it up in the right spirit. So even if they don't ask, please talk about that. And if they exclusively ask, what did you learn from your failure? So just think, as I said, like when you thought about your two failures in life, at the same time, you should also think about like one or two things you could have learned. Maybe you have learned to be attention to detail, and maybe hardworking, maybe to have control over your habits in your life or something like that. So there could be many things which you could potentially learn from your failures. So think properly and frame the answers for this. And then you have strength and weakness part, which is a very common thing that can happen. And if you ask me, these are the things, okay, especially about a strengths part, you have to talk about these in your interview. Even if they do not ask you directly about that, it could be like brought into the action in multiple cases. If they are asking why MBA, why should I select you, there are n number of ways they can ask you, and at the end of the day, strengths are the ones which are going to be coming to help you. Okay, and when you're picking the strengths and weaknesses, I would ask you to pick three each. Again, the reason is maybe you pick a strength like hardworking. Then the panelist might say, okay, it's good, but do you think the people who all are sitting here, who are waiting outside and who all are like sitting for this B school interview are not hardworking? So do you think, so how exactly do you think it's like something strength which is a very unique one or something? So to be on the safe side, think properly, and whatever the strength you pick, there's a good chance that the panel will ask, how can you justify that? Yeah, anyone can claim that I'm a hard worker, I'm a leader, I'm a team player, I'm an optimistic person, I have persistence. So there are n number of good adjectives you can pick, even maybe high five vocab, but at the end of the day you have to justify why you think you have this strength. So you have to think through your life, maybe in your work, maybe in your college, when you are organizing a festival, or maybe you're secretary, or maybe something like that. Maybe in your school days, even you are some school leader, or maybe you are captain of your team or something. At some point of time, if you had done something related to team management or leadership, or maybe in your office when you handle some ambiguous situation or maybe some problem, to think properly. That's what I'm saying. Every question, the answer should come from your heart. From your experiences. And if you really are committed, and whatever you are answering is actually coming from your real life, I think there is no chance that you will fumble in the interview. And even if the interviewer is probing you deeper and deeper, you will not fail. But if you are just trying to make up some answers, there's a good chance that the interviewer is not uh, believing in you. He might probe some more questions which might lead you to actually give up at some point of time, which will make him evident that okay, this guy is just making guy or girl is just making up the story. Then moving to the weaknesses part, I would just like to say this. There are 3 points I would talk about. First, when they ask you about the weakness, please do not say that, sir, my weakness is I eat a lot, I watch TV a lot. These kind of things which are a bit irrelevant to the context. When you're sitting in a B school, so they'll say, okay, so what happened? Look, we are not some army, like you're not sitting for an interview for an army or navy, right? So why are they bothered about the food habits of you? And like if you really eat a lot, so that you are obese or maybe your body is not fit, maybe they might ask about that, but that's not something which is appreciated. And then when they ask you the weakness, do not try to cover it up with some positives. Like few people have this habit of saying, so I work hard, I really worked hard, I mean like I put so much of effort, too many hours, or I have attention to detail, like my attention to detail is too high, that's what like my colleagues are not happy with that, something like that. These are the things which in a way look, I mean you're just trying to paint and show that these strengths are, in a way you're showing your strengths in a weaknesses form, which might have worked few years back but not right now. So I would suggest you to actually think properly and pick some proper weaknesses, but make sure that you do not pick some very I mean, what I'm saying is like the ones which can be easily pulled out and they can actually screw you in an interview. Suppose I'm, sir, I'm very lazy, or I actually do not do the things on time, procrastination or something like that. When you talk on some big things like this, there's a good chance that they might say then you are not fit for like an MB school student. So then you might have to struggle to justify that. The fact is, we all might have some weaknesses which are really problematic in life. I know, like we all know, right? No one is perfect. But the thing in an interview, do not talk about these as well. Maybe you can pick something like you're not actually able to communicate your feedback. You want to give a feedback to someone in your work, in your team, even though he hasn't done a good job. Maybe you are not so comfortable to go to him and talk to him directly because you feel that maybe he will not receive it in a positive manner. So this is something like you can say that this is a weakness, and it matters because when I'm working in future as a team or manager, I should be in a position to actually go and talk to my colleagues and maybe my manager or my subordinates about the weaknesses or something like that. So I should be able to give a feedback to them. So these are the things. This is one example which I can think of. You have to think properly in your life and maybe pick weaknesses. But I would agree that this would take a lot of pain to actually go through and get the weakness, especially. But please take the effort because there's a good chance that the interviewer will ask you this. Then what are you doing to cover your weaknesses? Obviously, this would should be covered in your weakness part. Even if they do not ask you, I would suggest you, sir, this is the weakness, but I have understood that because see, when you are saying this is my weakness, it means that you have realized that you found out. Then what exactly are you doing? If you're still doing nothing about it, then it shows you in a bad picture. So that's not something which you should admit. So what you should say is, sir, I'm working on it. I've done something this. Maybe even if you really believe that your laziness is gone, maybe you can say I was lazy, but right now I'm doing like every day morning I go for a jogging or running. I play sports such a 1 2 hours or something like that to justify that, and I maintain my room cleanly. I go out and do stuff, something like that. How the things have changed in your life to justify that you have overcome your weakness. So what are you doing to cover your weaknesses should be covered even if they ask only weaknesses. Sometimes they specifically ask, so what are you doing to cover your weaknesses? So go ahead and explain that. Then they can ask about an incident or event which influenced you in your life. Okay, so when they ask you this particular thing, then you have to again have to go into your life, look into like what are the some, like you always have some perceptions in your life. You believe that I have to be in a well established position career wise. You want to be somewhere in the top. Maybe you believe that helping the society is something good and which we should be doing it a lot. Maybe you believe that starting a business is something which is a great, being an entrepreneur is something that's what you are interested about. So there could be a number of things. But for some point of time, that should have, whatever the thought or whatever the perception you have should have been implanted due to some incident or event or some person who is like a role model or something. So you have to look into that and try to frame a proper story, which we can actually story as in I'm saying it should be narrated. That's why I'm saying story. It's not something which is made up or something. That's not what I'm suggesting. So you should actually think through properly and get a good incident, which is something like which you can really say that it has influenced in your life. You got some perception or you got some opinion on something just because of that. And then we can go ahead and talk about the role model and idol part. They might ask you about the role model or idol. So you can talk about some successful person in this world, business people or maybe a sports person, Sachin Tendulkar, Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi. some other people. Maybe you can talk about your personal life, maybe your father, your grandparents, or your mother, maybe your friend, someone who has done something. Rarely friends is not something we pick it up, but still sometimes people go ahead and say. So it's up to you whether you want to pick your uncle or father or someone within your life, or maybe someone who is well known across the world. So it's up to you to think about that. But one thing I would say, when you're picking a famous personality, make sure that you at least have a good knowledge about him. It's not that you just say it for the sake of saying, and then if he asks you any good question on him, and then you do not answer that, maybe that might not go well. So just even if he asks a basic question, if you do not answer that, so if you talk about your maybe father or maybe your uncle, maybe the panel will not be able to ask too much into that. So that sometimes might be a good thing to do. So just think about that and prepare answer for this. And then they might ask 3 words to describe yourself. So what exactly do you think you can talk about? Maybe in 3 words, creative person. But if whatever you talk, there's a good chance that there will be a follow-up question, so which you have to justify. So be prepared for that. Then how do you differentiate yourself from the rest of the candidates? So this is just nothing but a symbol similar to your strengths part. So when you're talking about your, like, how do you differentiate? Sir, I have these qualities. I am good at this. I'm like that. This. So when you're talking about this, so that's why you're trying to differentiate. I'm trying to bring something. Maybe you can talk about your experiences in your life, which you think you can add value to the batch. When you're sitting in a classroom, the P2P learning is a very important thing. And maybe you can say that, sir, I came from this background, or maybe I have experience in this part, so I can definitely add good value to the classroom, a diverse thought process and stuff. So that's something. If you have any create or any diverse and like a new point related to you, maybe you have to think through that, and also add strengths. If you do not have anything particularly something which stands out of the rest, maybe you have to talk again about your strengths part. And if they say it's a very common strength, how do you think that differentiate you? Then you have to pick an example and say, I think I have this thing, and I think I have in a good proportion. It's not just I have it, but I think I've used that, I've shown that. So then incidents where you have shown your leadership skills. So this could be something it could be in your work life, maybe it could be in your in a college, or maybe I said a team captain or something. So where you have to think and then prepare for this. So to show like what are the incidents where you have shown your leadership when there's a group and suppose it was in a chaos, everyone was like not sure of what to be done, then I have done something like this to do that. So that is something which you can talk about. And then the next question could be a difference between a leader and manager. This it's not a very frequent question, but this is something which can appear. So just make sure that you have some opinion on this. This is not a very important one if you ask me. Then about things related to you, this is something which most of the people actually do not think about, and there's a good chance that the interviewer will ask, and if you do not answer, it will not go well. Say like you talk about the places you are from. Say my hometown is this, I have done my engineering or graduation in economics or commerce something in this place, I worked for these many years or something, I did my internship in another place. So if you are talking about maybe 2 3 places, there's a good chance that they pick any questions related to that and ask about that. They ask maybe how did that place get that name? What is it famous for? And then they might ask you what is the difference between hometown and place where you worked or studied. So you have stayed in your hometown for say 10 plus years, and you worked in a place for say 1 2 years or studied for 3 4 years. So what is the difference you found in terms of people lives, lifestyle, and the way the food and everything else? They get asked. Well, you have to be prepared, because otherwise it shows that you are not actually aware of your surroundings. It's true, right? You have stayed in your college for say 3 4 years. You worked in your the job for 1 2 years, and you stayed in the place. And if you can't answer the basic, if you can't answer the basic things, it might sound that okay, this guy doesn't think anything about the things which is related to. This is something which is related to. If you are not even thinking about these, then how can they think that you can think about something which is external to you? Something about say the macroeconomic features, outside the country related, politics related, international affairs, which are needed for a business person. So you have to make sure that you prepare the basic things. I would suggest you to actually go through Wikipedia. So there you will find the page for your place. Just make sure that you read it, say for 15 20 minutes on each place where you have been, so that you ensure that you know some basic things. Then they might ask the staple food of the place, maybe the rivers nearby, so leaders, universities if there are any. So these all depends on the specific place. If you the place you come from has a very famous university, it's a famous leader, or maybe a famous river or something, so that you might ask you. So be prepared for that. Then PI questions related about things related to you. The other possible question is about your hobbies. So they can ask you about your books, sports. Like say you say my hobby is reading books, or watching sports, or playing sports, or watching movies, listening to music. So they can actually ask you any question out of that. So I would not say you should be well prepared. I mean, you should be prepared to everything that they can ask, but at least you should have some basic overview so that you sound that you really are justifying your hobby. So when they ask, suppose say you say sports is my hobby, watching or playing, they can ask you what is your favorite team or players, what do you like about this game. Say you're talking about a football, which football club you follow. Maybe they can talk about the ISL, which is the recent thing. Maybe they can talk about cricket. So the Indian World Cup, the ICC World Cup, which is gonna happen this February 15th. So they can ask about that and history of the World Cup. When did India win and stuff like that. So maybe they can ask you about the dimensions of a pitch, radius of the ball used. This is the worst thing that you can face. But you just have to be at least have a decent knowledge of what could be a potentially approximate dimensions of maybe a cricket pitch or a football pitch, the ball dimension, even if a basketball. It depends on the games you are saying that you follow. So make sure that you at least are prepared briefly about that. Sometimes the worst thing is this, if you ask me, like they can ask you the number of international wickets taken by bowlers, maybe Shane Warne, a run scored by Sachin Tendulkar in ODIs or Tests. So it depends on how passionate you sound in that, and they might pick up a question and ask you. So if you really want to make sure that you are talking about the sports, being a very you're very passionate about sports. Suppose you have books. So what kind of books, authors, what do you like in that particular author, or what is his latest work, and then what is the last book you have read and what did you like in that book, what is the key takeaway from the book, what did you learn from that book. So they can ask you many questions on that, even movies, directors, music directors, and again music albums. And if you say that Akon is a fan, you're fan of him, so then they might ask you about is related to where is he from and stuff like that. So be sure that whatever you're talking, you at least really have some decent knowledge about that. So you never know, then they might say, see, this is hobby, no one is forcing you, and you are claiming that this is my hobby, and so you're not answering the question they're asking. So they might just say that in your face, that see, how can you say that this is your hobby? If you're saying this is your hobby and you're not having a good knowledge about that, then how can we believe that whatever we teach you in this school is something which you can actually learn something and carry it and use it in your future. So it's a bit tough to justify that if you ask me. So I would say maybe prepare a bit on these kind of things. So these are the very fundamental things. Still, know whatever I've covered are very much close to you. Things about you, things related to you, like your hobbies, or maybe things related to your place where you came from. So make sure that you have a decent knowledge about these. Then they can ask questions related to your career. So why MBA? It's a very big question if you ask me. You have to be very sure about answering this. Please do not give a vague answer saying that I'm not sure, I'm just trying to figure it out, or maybe just that I'm done with my graduation and I want to do post graduation. I've gone for this, I'm coming for this MBA. Otherwise, I've given GRE and CAT, so somehow I made it, I cracked CAT or that or NMAT or something, and that's why I'm sitting for this interview. Please do not talk, give these kind of answers. Uh, think properly and try to justify with what connect the dots. So till what this time, whatever you have done in terms of your graduation and projects, and then your the post the work if you have worked, and then what exactly are you thinking, why exactly do you think that these things whatever you have done in the past would help you to do MBA, or how exactly are you connecting these dots, but how are you justifying that? The next question, so you have done engineering, now you want to do MBA, so why is that? I mean, how can you justify this? To be very frank, the panelists themselves, I can assure you that most of the profs in the B school themselves did engineering, then they have done their maybe MBA or PhD or fellowship program, and then they are faculty in these schools. So to be frank, they themselves have done the engineering, so I don't think they can actually blame you. It's not like they don't want to take you, just that they want to really see like what is the reason why you're sitting this. The reason shouldn't be like my future job, the high paying jobs are available or something, like life status will change or something. Please do not pick these kind of things. Talk about something like your experience you're expecting, and maybe you have done some leadership role in your college or job, and you felt that you are good at managing people or something like that. So give 2 3 examples and say that. So that's where I liked MBA, and I think I will do better in this. Maybe in your job you felt that you're doing good, but the maximum you can actually grow is somewhere to the director, vice president or something with your technical profile. So you felt that maybe MBA would definitely help you to climb the ladder and go till the CEO, something like that. So you can pick these kind of things, but make sure that you actually work and yes, I work about this part because it's a very important one. And then if you talk about this which specialization, it's a bit tricky one if you ask me. There are specializations like marketing, finance, strategy, systems, there's IT, HR, operations. So you have these basic ones, and I'm talking especially for general management. The interviews where you're sitting, which are offering general management role. So if you are sitting for say XLRI HR course, or if you are sitting for Nursing Monji, the finance specific courses, or MDI HR specific, IT specific courses, then you have to justify that specialization. You have to think like what are the roles they're going to offer in future, and then why do you think what have you done in past? Maybe you are from IT background, you're going to IT, so that's why you think that is on the right track. So or maybe you feel that you have some particular set of skills which are needed for this particular role. Maybe if you are talking about HR, you say like people's management is a key thing in HR, and I think I'm a very good people's manager. I did this leadership role in my work, or maybe I organized some festival or something, and I have handled these many people, and then I've done good job. So these kind of things are examples which you can use to justify. But if you are sitting for a general management like IIM, these schools like IIMs and auxiliary business management, FMS, and Nasimonji core program and Symbiosis core program, IFT is partially an international business, but still you can do other specializations as well. I would suggest you to stay neutral. If you really feel that you have done, suppose say work for 2 3 years in finance, you coming from the commerce background and you're very confident in that, maybe you go ahead and claim that. But otherwise, it's best to stay neutral, because if you claim something, they might go ahead and try like, why exactly do are you liking this? Sir, I like finance. Then maybe, so what have you done? Like you saying that you like finance, so how can you justify that? Maybe you say that I read the newspapers or something, I follow this, I find it more interesting, I've done something in stock trading or something. Then they might go ahead and talk some technical things, and they might ask you to answer questions which might be a tough thing for you to do. So I would suggest you to stay neutral and say, sir, as of now, I'm open to the specialization. The first year in a B school would generally be a fixed set of courses where you would do what the school offers. Then once you come to second year, then you have options to pick. So and you can do you can do 2 3 specializations as well, major and minor kind of thing, or maybe you can do a very specific one. So you have 1 year of time and you do basic courses of all these specializations, and I think that's fairly a good exposure for you, and you can decide what to do, what not to do. So I think that's something which you can answer to them, and that's fairly a good answer. Then short term and long term goals, which is a very common thing again. So when they talk about the short term, you talk about after getting into B school. So what are you thinking of the next 3 4 years? So 2 years in a B school and then 2 years after that of job and kind of thing. So what exactly are you thinking? Like building fundamental management concepts, getting industry exposure, maybe trying to, if you are committing to any specialization, maybe you can say that I want to get into some this investment banker role or something. If you say that I'm committed to finance, if you say strategy consulting, maybe you can talk about that, something like that. Otherwise, if you do not commit and want to stay neutral, say that I want to start my career in a very good company, where I can get a chance to get a good exposure and gain the industry knowledge added to what I can learn the 2 years of B school, the book, the knowledge from the profs and my friends, and as well as whatever the industry exposure I get through internships and other competitions and whatever actually happen in a B school. So these are the things which I expect from a B school, and I expect these knowledge can be further improved, and I can get good experience once I get into industry. And so that's what you can talk about short term. Maybe long term, you can talk about what exactly do you actually aspire in your future, maybe after 15 years or something like that. So if you really want to be an entrepreneur, maybe you can go ahead and talk about that. Maybe if you want to be, say, like be a CEO of a company, maybe you can claim that I want to be a CEO of a company. Or maybe you want to be a HR head. If you are again committing to specialization, then maybe you can talk CFO, a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, CEO if you want to be. So these are the things which you can, big things which you can talk. Um, the next question is again, where do you see yourself X years from now? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So it depends on what exactly are they asking. If they ask you say like 5 years, it's something like you've just gone out of your B school and worked for 2 3 years, which you would be still an entry level of manager. So you still suppose depends on, like, I would try to figure out what I should be doing. So depending on that, I will go into that industry. So I'll work, learn, and I'll grow there, and I'll like learn from my seniors. And maybe by fifth year, you would be some like handling a team as well. So I would be trying the first 5 years would be more like you should talking like I want to learn and learn more, something like that. Once they talk about say 15 20 years, that again comes into long term goals, and maybe you can talk about that point. So then work experience related questions. So they can ask like, what is your work profile? Maybe they can ask, so what exactly do you do in your job and something like that. Maybe they can ask, what is a typical day in your work? So what do you do? You go to office, what kind of people you do meet, clients, and maybe within your inter departments, like you might have to work with inter teams. So what exactly do you do over there? So you have to talk about that part. So they'll say, okay, so do you like your job? So generally I would suggest you to say yes. Even if you do not like your job or your colleagues or manager, please do not comment in the negative way. Try to justify that you find a good value in MBA. That's why you are coming for an MBA. It could be like entrepreneur thing, or maybe you feel that MBA is the thing to go for you on the basis of what you have done in past, something like that. Or if you feel that for you grow in your job, you feel MBA is the thing. But do not say that, sir, I do not like my job, so that's the reason why I am doing MBA. That will not go well. So please try to understand that this is indirectly they're asking like why MBA. So do you like your job? So please say, sir, I'm enjoying my job. So then they might ask, so if it's why are you leaving it to do MBA? Then you have to again talk about the same thing. So I find more value in MBA right now at this point of time. I think my career can be built upon like this. Maybe you can talk about highly work experience people can talk on that. Freshers can talk about some responsibilities they have taken in the college and feel that they are good in this, something like that. And please do not. I would say it's a bit risky. Maybe you can get away with that, saying that I do not think I like my engineering. So I did my engineering for 3 4 years and I don't think it's any useful for me. So please do not do that. Then they say, okay, then you might say the same thing once you get out of the B school. After studying for 2 years in a B school, how can you guarantee me that you say the same? You don't say the same thing. That said, I didn't learn anything in the B school. It's just a waste of time and money. So please make sure that you say that I learned something from my engineering. Even you can say that I learned how to organize the things in my life, maybe analytical skills or logical things, stuff like that you can talk about. And maybe technology is a very important thing in the current world, even in the business world. So you coming from an engineering background, that would definitely, if you're coming from an IT background, that would definitely help you to actually work in the industries where IT is a very important thing. Maybe if you're coming from a mechanical background, maybe you can talk about you looking into operations thing where you work in industries where the manufacturing is a very important thing. Even if you don't work in ops role, even if you're working for other roles, if you are working for a company which is basically a manufacturing firm, there's no wrong in actually having experience on that, and so you will definitely do better. So you have to justify like this. Then what did you learn from your work experience? You talk about that. So you have to again go through, I mean, think through what exactly have you done in your work, and like you can say that, sir, I've learned this, I've learned something from my colleague or my manager, or the mistakes I've done, and I've learned something from this. So you can think for some examples and build upon that. Then good and bad experiences with your colleagues and managers. So please ensure that you do not put the blame on someone else. Okay, so it could be that the situation has caused this problem. Try to, as much as you can, try to actually avoid putting the blame on others. So I would suggest you to say that some situation has caused this, maybe misunderstanding. So it's not a pure mistake or intention by someone, it just happened like that. So because of some issues, so we somehow managed to handle. So what exactly did you do to handle that part? So you can talk about that, which will again come into like your people's management skills or team playing skills. So these experience you can actually use it in multiple cases. So but be sure that what you're talking and you can justify with some good examples when you're talking these things. And then demonstration of leadership qualities in your work, similar what I've talked even earlier. So if you have used, maybe you were team lead, maybe you organize some blood donation, or maybe some visit to a orphanage or something, maybe a festival you have organized in your company, and you have taken the leadership role, and maybe you have taken some responsibility and led something like that. So you think about that and make sure that you talk about that. And then this could be the another question, like what is one non-traditional or creative approach you have used to solve a problem. So again you have to think through your like past your, like say your college and your work experience, and think if you can actually, this can be again go with this. So how did you handle the situation, bad experience with your colleagues? Maybe you handle something in a creative manner, maybe non-traditional approach. Maybe if you feel that it's a new thing to a new way of handling, maybe you can talk that even in this. So it depends on your experiences, I would say. So then they can ask about your academics part. So undergraduation or school. So if you've done your engineering, electrical, electronics, they can ask about your microprocessor subject. They can also ask about your Kirchhoff's law, basic the laws of that. So if you do not answer these fundamental things, I think it doesn't go well. Like, I mean, like, so what exactly have you learned in the 4 years is the question which they'll put. So make sure that you pick at least one or two subjects, because there's a good chance that they'll ask you what is your favorite subject. So make sure that whatever you felt like in the past 4 years you have done fairly good, so you can pick that and try to actually talk about that. If even he asks you some fundamental questions, you would be in a position to answer. Sometimes your luck might not be in your side, and they will directly ask a question on something without asking what is your favorite topic, or in which topic you're comfortable. So, but still, the best thing you can do is to prepare all. But that's not a, if you are not having time, or like if you don't have energy for that, at least make sure that you prepare one or two subjects, important subjects which you can actually handle. If you pick some random subject, even if you say you've really mastered that, there's a good chance that the panelist who's sitting on the other side would not, do not know about that, and maybe he'll not ask a question. So he'll again go to something which he knows. So make sure that you actually read some subject topics which are actually very common, and is a good chance that the panel sitting on the other side would know that. So for thermodynamics, for engineering, mechanical engineers is a very common thing. Maybe you can prepare on that fundamental laws of thermodynamics and stuff. And then the data structures part for the IT engineers, the IT and computer science people. So make sure that you prepare on these. So at least pick one or two subjects and be well prepared for that. At least brush up the concepts. Well prepared as in the thing. At least brush up through some fundamentals, so that you do not miss in the fundamentals. So if you do not answer a very fundamental question, then there's a good chance, as what I've been saying, they will say, so what exactly have you learned? So you have spent 4 years, you have done these many projects, it seems, and then you have scored these high marks, maybe 80, 90, CG of 8 plus, 9 plus. But at the end of the day, if you're not answering a question, then it doesn't go well. So at any point, if you're not able to answer it, just say that, sir, I'm very sorry. It has been some time, so I couldn't remember that. Maybe I'm not able to recollect it. It's fine. I'm not saying you should answer it, otherwise your interview is gone or something. But just try your best in the before going to interview. Make sure that you at least give your best shot in terms of brushing up the concepts, so that if he asks any good easy questions, you should be in a position to answer that. So for other undergrads, economics, accounting, finance, for commerce or economics background, so you have to pick some important topics in your what do you call it, your undergrad level. Maybe they can ask about the supply chain curve. They can ask about your marginal utility and stuff like that, the theories of diminishing marginal utility and other things. So you have to make sure that you have a decent knowledge about the microeconomics. And finance, they might ask about some basic definitions in the stock, maybe bonds and coupon rates and stuff like that. In accounting, about the current assets, current liabilities, something like that. So make sure that you actually have some idea about what you have studied, some important topics at least. Then they will might ask you the recent advancements in the fields related to your undergraduation. Suppose say you are in IT, so they might ask you, so what are the recent advancements in your IT field? If right now it can be said, but at least few years back you could have talked about cloud computing, which is picking up very fast. Maybe you can talk about the smart city thing, which the Narendra Modi is planning to do in our country. So that is something which is not new in the world, but at least it's done in a very it's in a very nascent stage. So maybe you can talk about how IT is utilized to actually do the smart cities. So similarly in mechanical and electrical, if you can pick something, maybe you can talk about that. Then the school subjects, they can even ask from these topics: physics, chemistry, social, physics like biology as well. So biology, like they might ask about the photosynthesis process, the chlorophyll, about chlorophyll and the leaves. Maybe they can ask that. In chemistry, they might ask you reactions, chemical reactions. If they think it's a very fundamental reaction and you should be knowing it, so I don't I can't say like they can ask you, they can expect you. So I would not say you should be prepared for everything, but I'm just saying that you keep in mind that these things can occur. So if you can, physics, centrifugal and centripetal force, these are like cool level and maybe 11th and 12th. So whatever I'm saying, these school things, right? I would say you keep it as a peripheral thing. I mean, if you have time and if you think that you have done everything else properly, and you still have time and energy to spend, maybe you can spend on this. So you have to prioritize what are the things which are very much important to you, which you should definitely be prepared properly, so that there's a good chance that the interviewer will ask, and if you don't answer them properly, it might not go well. Even if you don't answer a question on your physics or chemistry or history, like say when did Battle of Plassey happen, it's fine. That's fairly good enough. You can justify that. Sorry, sir, I do not remember that. So I frankly admit that Battle of Plassey has nothing to do with doing an MBA. Even if the CEO of a big company might not be in a position to answer it, it doesn't mean that they are not fit to be a successful manager or leader. So, but they just ask you to actually stretch you out. Maybe see like how much you remember from what you have studied. Make sure that you also read your final year projects. There's a good chance that they'll definitely pick on that, because you would have written that in your form generally. So they'll ask what is your final year project. So what did you do? What did you learn? So something like that. So make sure that you actually know a decent thing, because a project is something which you have done. It's not even something like a course where you can say that, sir, I didn't like the course, so I didn't read it properly. I didn't get a good grade or something like that. But project is something which you have put all your energy for, say, one semester or something. At the end of the day, if you are not answering properly, it's a really, really a bad thing. Then mathematics is another thing which they can ask you. So engineering mathematics, this is the worst. I mean, the toughest ones you could be facing: double and triple integration, maybe optimization course which you would have done in your engineering, something like that. But generally, they do not ask to that extent. But they will ask something like integral and differential calculus, which you would see in IIM Calcutta and other IIMs as well. Integration of x ln x dx. Like you might get a the integral calculus. They might ask you to use differential calculus to see the maxima, find the maxima and minima of equation. So you should be well prepared. At least you should brush up these kind of things: the maxima and minima, the local maxima, the local minima, the saddle points, the basic stuff related to the differential calculus, and basic integral calculus, some standard forms which you can actually integrate back. So something like that. Then probability and statistics is other topic which I mean they can pick and ask. Probability, the dependent events and independent events. So they might ask you, like say in IMC, one of the students says this, like, okay, so you flip the coin 99 times, and 95 times it was head. Say 99 times it was head, and so if you are flipping the 100th time, so what is the probability of getting tails? So it's half. But people might get I mean they might have this impression that as 99 times the head has fallen, so there's a good chance that the tail will fall this time. There's a good high probability. This is called a gamer's fallacy. But that's not true. It's still half. The reason is they're independent events, so whatever's happened in the past has nothing to do with that particular event. So that these kind of things you should be able to justify from the real life. They might ask you on permutations and combinations. So like these many people are like waiting outside the room. So there are these many chairs. How many, like in how many forms you can arrange them? The girls and boys. So these are things which you would have done for cat. So be ready for that. And then statistics is another thing: mean, median, mode. So they might ask you some data and say like, sorry, there was some issue. I hope my voice is coming more. So again, the functions and graphs is other things they can ask. They can give you some functions and ask you to draw a graph for that. And maybe they can ask you a basic function and ask you to do inverse of the function, some basic algebra and functions, which again you would have done for your CAT preparation. So just brush up these basic things. The statistics is something which you wouldn't have done mostly for CAT. Make sure that you actually prepare this mean, median, and mode stuff. Sometimes the probability and stats can go to an extent like they can ask you the normal distribution. uh, so these kind of things which you would have done in your engineering. So make sure that you at least know what exactly is this, the two-tail test, single tail, hypothesis testing, stuff like that. Again, these things would again come. Whatever I'm telling, right? I'm going from a minimum to the maximum level of the preparation. So I say at least you have to be done with the level 1 for all the topics. Then if you have the time, slowly move to the next level. So make sure that you prepare for the things related to you and about you properly. Then move ahead and think about these things, your academics part and mathematics and other stuff. and in that you can prepare level 1, level 2, and slowly depending on the time you have. So then not exactly maths, but they can also ask puzzles and guesstimates. So puzzles as in, some normal puzzles, the egg is falling from this floor, so it's not breaking, why is it not breaking? Some standard ones like this are maybe like you have a candle of 5 centimeters long, maybe 7 centimeters long, 5 centimeters long, not candle, sorry, a glass of water of 5 centimeters and 7 centimeters. How can you measure 6 centimeters? So you pour from this, that. So you have these kind of standard puzzles which you can actually Google, and maybe you can prepare for that. And then the guesstimates is one thing which they might ask you. This is something like how many ping pong balls, table tennis balls can be fit in a bus, or in an air bus, or maybe in a normal bus. Maybe how many barbers are there? Suppose you're sitting an interview for in Bombay or Bangalore, they can ask you, so how many barbers do you think are there in Bangalore or Bombay, or how many taxis are there? Like how many coffee cups are used in a particular day? So you have to estimate it with some approximation. So this is altogether a very huge topic, guesstimates. So I would suggest you just Google it and look at 1, 2, 3 guesstimates, so that you at least get some idea what exactly are they, like they, how exactly should you be approaching it and trying to do that. So that these things are generally not asked guesstimates. These are the ones which are generally asked in B school for consulting firms. Must for the consulting firms, and few other firms as well will ask. But they might ask you if you say maybe consulting is my interest, or maybe if you say that I am very analytical or stuff like that. So be prepared for these kind of questions as well. So the last topic which I would say is like the PA related to group discussion and VAT. So you would have already done your group discussion and VAT. They might go ahead and talk about okay, so who performed well in your group? How did you perform? What could have been better? So be I mean, like you should have, obviously you will have an opinion. So you will talk, obviously you talk what you feel like, but just make sure that you're not pointing at someone and saying that that guy has done mistake, this. Maybe you can say you should have maybe not done something like that. That's fine. You can say that, but do not blame that my bad performance is because these people were not giving me a chance, something like that. Do not blame too much. Maybe you feel like blaming because maybe you didn't perform well or something. But at least make sure that it doesn't look like you are just because you didn't do properly, you're just complaining on them. So that shouldn't be a case. Then they might ask, okay, you talked about XYZ. So what is this? I mean, XYZ as in some point you pick. Suppose you talked about HDI, Human Development Index, and maybe you talk about GDP or something like that. So even though they know it, they'll just still ask, so what is this? Can you explain this to us? So make sure that what you are talking in a group discussion, you at least have some fair knowledge, so that if this question appears in the interview, it shouldn't be like you do not answer that. It should be like you are speaking what you know, like that should be the sense, that should be the message you should be sending. You're talking some high five words because like who will point me in a group discussion, but it might come back to haunt you in a personal interview. So make sure that you're talking what you actually know. Then finally they might say it seems that you do not agree to some point made by someone, or maybe the whole topic itself, the group itself, everyone is supporting on this and you are not supporting on that. So why exactly is that? Can you just elaborate it to us, something like that? So whatever you're talking, make sure that you're actually using some factual data, or at least some good reasoning or examples to justify it. It shouldn't be like it's my personal opinion. Sir, I do not like this. That's why I do not like it. That's it. I mean, it shouldn't sound like that. I do not like someone, and maybe I do not like this because I don't know. You yourself are not sure. It's just a perception you might have really. It happens in our life. So just make sure that when you're talking, you're justifying it with some numbers, some factual data. Maybe that these many people, like these millions of people, are getting affected, or maybe these like X number of people are like affected by diseases or something. Maybe the jobs, they're losing jobs, something like that, or maybe these many jobs are produced. That's why I believe in some leader, or maybe some idea, some campaign. So make sure that whatever you talk, at least you have some data. If not, some examples you can say that in this particular country they have implemented that. So I feel that India is fairly on a similar level, or maybe this particular place is demographic wise, or the culture wise we are on a similar level. Maybe we can implement that here, and I felt that it might be a successful one. That's why I'm in support of this, and maybe I'm not. So something like that. So make sure that you actually do with the proper reasoning. It's not only for this. Whatever you're talking in a group discussion or interview, the fundamental logic should be you are trying to justify it with a proper reasoning, be it using factual data or proper examples, or it could be even the reasoning is like examples and factual data. Yeah. So that you should make sure. I think so. yeah, we are done with the session. So I think I've covered the important categories which you should look into when preparing for your personal interview. So, so I would just, before going to Q&A round, if you have any questions, so we'll just see like you can just follow us in these things. So we have a Facebook page GTCube, Twitter handle GTCube3. So all the updates related to whatever the sessions, whatever the material which we are planning, the related to this current affairs with some factual data, some sessions on this, future sessions will all be updated in these pages. You'll also can see the updates in our website, the gtcube.com. If you have any concerns regarding anything at any point of time, you can mail us through our website, and maybe you can mail us directly at the email ID which you have given. Contact us at the rate gtcube.com. So, so if you have any concerns at some point of time, any specific queries, so we will try to help you out as much as we can. So I ask you, I request you all to actually like our Facebook page, because it will help you at the end of the day to actually follow all the updates. We would be posting some news and other useful stuff in the coming days, which would help you to actually prepare better for the personal interviews and the group discussion and that. So if you have any questions regarding what I have talked in general personal interview, so type that in the chat. So I'll try to answer it. It's fine. I've talked a lot, so I think you should have some doubt. So if you do not have doubt, it's not like I want to force something. So I'll wait for 4 more minutes. If no one is posting a doubt, then you close the session. So it's up to you. If you have any specific concern, maybe you can post it personally as well. But if you have some general questions on how to handle these kind of questions, something like that, maybe I would be able to help you out. So we'll wait till 9:05 and then let's see if no one is posting, then I'll end the session. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, body language, gestures and stuff. Okay. So Vishal, I would talk about it for 2 minutes or so. Okay. But as I've said that it's already covered in our previous webinar. So I would suggest you to actually go to our website. Go to that, will help you in the GD-PAI, and that we have uploaded in the videos part, the recorded session. So you can actually go through that and look into that. But still, I'll answer that over here. So I would suggest you to the best thing, the good thing, no, the most important thing I should say actually, is to actually make sure that you have proper body language, and the best thing you can do is to have smile on your face. Believe me, that's the thing which you should, that's the biggest asset you have, and that's the thing which you can actually use it to drive your points, and maybe you can get the call converted. Because sometimes what happens is the interviewer panel is not actually trying to be cool. He might try to shout at you, or maybe he might try to stress you out. He might try to create some nervous feeling in you. But please, I understand that even these people are some humans. They're not some aliens or some demons who are trying to just eat you out, or maybe just trying to just psych you out. They are not some psychos as well. I can say that because I personally know a good number of profs. I myself, the one who actually I had experience in my interview, was looking very serious. But once I came to college, he's one of my favorite profs, and he has a good amount of sense of humor, and he's a very cool guy. It's just that they do not show that in an interview. They would just try to hide that good number of profs to create a stressful environment for you. So please understand that. So even if they shout at you, even if they do anything, please do not actually fall into the trap. Like, maintain the smile, be cool, be happy. I agree, you will definitely have stress, but do not actually overburden yourself because something is not going well in the interview. If you're not answering any question, it's fine. You can still go ahead, and there are cases where people couldn't answer for first 10 minutes and they answered 1 2 questions properly. In the end, they still made it. It might be because they handle the stress properly, and it could be the profile is good. So you never, it's not that the interview, if you answer all the questions in the interview, you will make it. There are cases where people felt that they've answered everything they were asked and they did really good, but they couldn't make it. It's because maybe the way you're answering in the interview is not something which is appreciated by them. So body language wise, once you enter, make sure that you are giving a firm handshake to the profs, professors, the panelists, and then you sit straight. Do not slouch or do not lean in. Make sure that all your in terms of dressing thing, if you can wear blazers, guys and girls, it's up to you whether you can use western formal wear or maybe you can salwar kameez. It depends on your comfort thing. Make sure that you're wearing something which is comfortable for you, like minimal amount of jewelry and less amount of makeup for girls, no nail polish, and like properly shaved faces of guys and short hair for guys and properly clean nails, stuff like that, so that it won't leave a bad impression to the panel. These things are the pre-requirements. After you go and give the handshake, and then you sit properly and smile throughout the thing. Then you sit, and when they are asking the question, listen to the one who is asking the question. When you're talking, you have to look at all the panelists. If there are 4 people, if there are 5 people, even if they are not looking at you, if they are not listening to you, they're looking at your form, or if they are looking at your phone, but still you actually maintain eye contact with all the 4 or 5, whatever the number of people. So you keep on looking at them at multiple times. Like it shows that you are actually talking to all. Like that's something which you should be maintaining. And then, as I said, smile is the thing. You do not hide that. See, I can assure you, if you can maintain the smile properly, you have cracked it. 30% of the interview is cracked properly, irrespective of you don't answer anything or not. So make sure that you're not actually overburden yourself with more stress. It could be that you couldn't answer like good chunk of questions. There's no problem with that. But please do not break down somewhere in the interview and give up, which would potentially not give you any positive result. So ensure that you are actually cool and calm about that. Do not overburden yourself. And so that is something which I would suggest you. So in terms of body language and hand gestures as well. So any more questions? So I assume that there are no more questions. So if you have, we'll just wait for 1 more minute. So if I'm not getting any more questions, so we'll close the session. So as meanwhile, I would just repeat this again. So we are our team. We are trying from IIM and Bits. We are trying to help you people who are preparing for the group discussion personal interview. So we have many things in our mind. We are planning to conduct few more sessions. We are planning to help you out in terms of the current affairs preparation. So as whatever the important topics, it takes a lot of time for all of you to actually read and get it done. So each topic might take you hours to understand why exactly the oil price falling, maybe the ISIS thing and Al Qaeda, take loads of topics which will definitely be asked in a group discussion or VAT or interview. So these kind of things you will not be in a position to read, and maybe it might take a lot of time. So we are actually planning to prepare short synopsis of these materials and put it. And also along with that, we are making some more material for your the personal interview and group discussion, the structures of frameworks which you can use so that you can do in a much structured manner and do it in a better way. We are also planning to have some mock PI sessions at later stages. So we are coming up with some wide variety of the things in our, like in coming few days. It's just that we expect you people to show interest in terms of like responding to the Facebook thing and other things. So we hope that you people like whatever we are doing, and first of all try to give us feedback if you actually, because that would help us to build upon whatever we have done till now. So please, I request all of you, after the session you'll get a form, please fill that, and maybe we'll learn things and maybe we'll do in a better way. In addition to that, that would be something which would be reflected upon in our coming works, so which would in a way help you all. So it's something which you are putting time for yourself. So that's something which I would like to say. So as we didn't get any questions, so I would like to close the session. But I would again request, like, please like the Facebook page if you haven't. If not, at least keep following in our websites. We will be posting more articles and other materials which will be coming in few days. So that's it. So thanks a lot for joining the session. I hope you liked it, and I expect you to please fill the form, the feedback form, which would help us to do well. Cool. So thank you all. So good night.